We are at the 2013 Ripcord Association reunion, talking now with Floyd Alexander of Jerseyville, Illinois, and the interviewer is James Smither of the Grand Valley State University Veterans History Project. Okay, Floyd, start us off with a little bit of background, and to begin with, where and when were you born?
I was born October 29, 1949, in Jerseyville. I went to grade school for first 4 years of my life in Jerseyville, and then we moved to Dow, Illinois,
Okay.
D-O-W. That's where I was living when I enlisted into the Army.
Okay, did you finish high school?
Yes,
Okay, and what year did you graduate?
68,
Okay,
1968.
all right, and then you enlist then at what date?
I enlisted in February of 1969.
Okay, now what led you to decide to enlist?
I was wanting to get credit for a new car, and all the banks was turning me down because I was at draft stage. I was A1, 1A, and then I just got tired of the doors closing for me. I enlisted and got it behind me. And
All right, now how much did you know about Vietnam at that point?
not a lot. I had two cousins that had served over there, but they never really discussed it at all. You know.
And do you know what kind of assignments they had? Were they infantry or something
One
else?
of them was infantry with the Big Red One, and the other one was artillery, I think, with the first cab.
Okay, all right. But basically, you weren't really thinking too much about that. They were just going to call you anyway, so just go sign up.
Right.
All right. Now, when you enlisted, were they giving you any options? Could you ask to go into a particular job or assignment, or was it just going to wait and see?
I asked for military police, and I ended up in artillery.
All right. And where do they send you for basic training?
Fort Leonard Wood, Missouri.
Okay. And what kind of reception do you get? You show up on the base, what happens?
I showed up on the base. I was in a bus, and the first guy I seen was my drill sergeant. And it was just chaos from there on.
So what does he do? He gets on the bus and...
He wasn't very nice. He done a lot of screaming and cussing and terrified every one of us.
All right. Did either of anyone you knew, did anyone warn you about what was going to happen?
No.
Okay, so
Not
this
at
is
all.
kind of a new experience. All right. Now, do they take a couple days to process you, or?
We had a 0 week.
Okay.
First week they processed us, and then we went to the training part.
Okay. Now, were they giving you tests and things in that first
Yes.
week? Okay.
Yes.
You know, what you were going to be good at. All right. Now, describe the actual basic training itself. What did they have you do?
Well, I was in what they called a fat farm because I was heavy set. I weighed 248 when I went in, and so there was not a special unit, but a platoon that all seemed like all the heavy set guys were in, and they called it the fat farm. And
What did you do that was different from the other recruits?
we couldn't walk anywhere. We had to run all the time, and any special jobs or anything, they would come and get one of the guys from that farm.
All right. Now, how easy or hard was it for you to kind of adjust to life in the military?
It was very hard, because I went right from basic to AIT in Fort Sill, Oklahoma, and then I got a 30-day leave and right to Vietnam.
Okay. But just in terms of just getting used to being in the military, when you're in basic, I mean, did you figure out how to get along and get by, or did you keep having trouble with people, or?
I never had trouble with people, but I did not like being in basic training. It was miserable. But everybody thought the same way.
All right. The guys who were training you, do you think they had been in Vietnam?
Oh, yeah. I had a senior DI, my first sergeant, and my drill instructor. They were all Vietnam veterans.
Okay. Were they making any effort to prepare you or give you any idea of what might happen over there?
Well, my drill sergeant told me that not only me, but the other ones too, that we was fat and stupid. And we probably would get somebody killed because we was overweight, couldn't move, and stupid.
Okay. I meant to ask before, what did your family do for a living when you were growing up?
My dad worked at a mill, a flour mill.
Mm-hmm.
We raised livestock.
Okay.
And
all right.
not big time, small stuff, you know.
Okay. And did you help out much with that when?
Every day.
Okay. So you had some acquaintance with physical labor and work.
Oh yes.
You weren't just a big tub of goo who sat on a couch.
Right.
So you had some strength and stamina and so forth. Now, did you get in decent shape by the time you got out of basic?
Yeah, when I think I was in real good shape. As a matter of fact, when I come back from Vietnam, like I said, when I went in, I weighed 248, and when I come home from Vietnam, I weighed 167.
Whoa!
And quite a change.
Okay, but you do your 8 weeks of basic, and then they send you on to Fort Sill for artillery school. At what point did you know you were going into artillery?
You know, I really didn't until my orders come down.
Okay.
And they said you're going to, Fort Sill, Oklahoma, for artillery training.
Okay. Now, what did you do at Fort Sill?
Trained for artillery, and they told us that in Fort Sill that probably 90% of us was going to go to Vietnam. And I think everybody but one guy did go.
Okay. Now, what did the actual training program consist of?
A lot of field training, a lot of firing the howitzers, and learning how to judge the distance, and where to drop the rounds.
Okay.
It was for a young guy. It was pretty complicated for me, but you learn how to do it.
Okay. So you learned to do the math.
You learn to do the math.
Okay. Now, what weapons do they actually train you on?
Well, you mean basic or AIT?
AIT.
105 howitzer.
Okay. And was that the only gun you trained on?
It's the only gun I trained on.
Okay. Now, was this a split trail variety?
Yes.
An old-fashioned one? Yeah. Okay.
Yes.
And did they start to gear people toward particular assignments, whether it's observers or gunners or things like that, or could you do everything?
I think basically everybody could do everything. I know I was versatile on the gun. I could do whatever needed to be done.
Now, did they treat you differently in AIT than in basic? I mean, was the relationship with the instructors any different?
Yeah, it wasn't as near as tough as basic. It was basic for me. It was just crazy.
Okay. Well, it was just getting you trained and conditioned to be a soldier and
yeah,
get the
well,
weight down.
and basic. I had a drill sergeant who used to I had to carry a piece of chalk in my shirt pocket, and every morning, like I said, the guys who were overweight couldn't walk; they had to run everywhere. I'd run up there and give him my piece of chalk, and he'd write 248 on the back of my shirt, plus a nasty word.
Okay, but they don't do that to you in AIT anymore. That's
AIT was completely different. It was a different ball game.
All right. Now, with the instructors in AIT, were a lot of them now Vietnam vets?
I know mine was, but the other ones I really don't remember.
Okay. All right. And how long does the AIT last?
8 weeks.
All right. And then from there, you go home and then to Vietnam?
From there, I got 30-day leave to go home, and then I went to Vietnam.
All right. And how did your family respond to the prospect of your going to Vietnam?
My dad was World War II veteran. It really upset him because my dad's seen a lot of action in World War II. And he begged me not to enlist, and him and my mom were really upset when I got my orders from Vietnam.
Yeah. What was your own attitude? What was your attitude toward that?
My attitude was, and to this day, whatever would have happened, it would have been my own fault because I enlisted. But saying that, 5 days after I got in basic, my mom got my draft notice in the mail. So 5 days?
Yeah.
So
you're going anyway.
Yeah.
So okay, it's just going to happen.
Yeah.
All right. How do they physically get you out to Vietnam? When you leave home, what do you do?
Well, when I left home, we flew over there, and then when we got to Vietnam, we had a 0 week.
Okay. Where did you fly out of?
I flew out of Fort Lewis, Washington.
Okay. And then what route did you take to get to Vietnam?
We went to Alaska, Japan, and right to Vietnam.
Okay. And where do you land in Vietnam?
I landed at Cam Bay.
Okay. And what's your first impression of Vietnam?
It stunk. It had a weird smell to it.
Mm-hmm. Did they keep you at Cam Ranh, or did they send you
They
up?
kept me at Cam Bay for 1 week.
Okay.
And then we went for my 0 week to show us booby traps and stuff like that.
Now, that week in Cam Ranh, what were you doing?
Actually, waiting to go to my company. We didn't.
Okay.
We wasn't, you know,
You weren't trained?
assigned to any company yet.
No duty, you're just sitting around waiting?
Waiting
Okay.
yeah.
All right. And now what unit do they assign you to?
Bravo Company, 2nd and 319th Artillery, 101st Airborne Division.
All right. And when did you arrive in Vietnam?
December 22nd of
1969.
1969.
All right. Good way to spend Christmas, I guess.
Yes, it
All right.
was.
How did they get you up to your unit?
Helicopter.
Okay, so from Cam Ranh, you get in a helicopter?
Yes, sir.
Okay, is it a Chinook, a big one, or?
It's Chinook.
Yeah, all right. And then where was your unit based at the time?
Camp Evans.
Okay. You go into Camp Evans, and was the battery there, or just the rear area for the battery there?
The rear area where the battery was there.
Okay. So when you arrive up there, what do they do with you?
They sent me to Bravo Company, artillery unit.
Yeah, and where?
And then I was out there I was with the artillery company for about, I don't remember, but anyway, I went out to the Alpha Company, 2nd of the 506th Infantry under Captain Burkhart.
Okay.
As a RTO for Lieutenant Brennan.
Okay. Now, how much time did you spend with the artillery battery before they gave you that assignment?
Well, I helped move the guns up on Ripcord, the 105s, and then it seemed like right when we started taking a lot of incoming, they moved me out to replace Jimmy Hill. He was an RTO with Lieutenant Brennan.
Okay. Now let's back up a little bit here. They get you out there. It's the late December. Did you spend Christmas on the base, or were you already with the battery in the field somewhere?
I would have had to spend Christmas at Cam Bay on the...
Okay, that's right, because you arrived here. So it's after Christmas that you have to go up, so the very, very end of the year. Okay. So you go up, you go to the... Now, where was the battery deployed at the time that you joined them?
I met up with them at Firebase Jack.
Okay. And that's in that coastal area, not too far from Camp Evans, right?
Right.
Okay. And then what kind of reception do you get when you join the battery?
Oh, it's fine. It's great.
Okay. So
the first thing you do is look for guys from your home state.
Okay.
That's just, I think everybody did that.
All right. And did you find anybody?
Yes. There was 2 guys, I think, besides me from Illinois.
Mm-hmm. And they were willing to kind of explain stuff to you, or?
Everybody was fantastic.
Okay.
I mean, everybody, it didn't matter where you're from, it's a brotherhood,
Right, okay. Because not all units work like that. Some
Yeah.
are welcoming and some not. But these guys, okay, they take you and they treat you decently. Were you assigned to a gun crew, or were you just?
Yes.
Okay.
I don't know why I remember this, but I was on Gun 5. I don't know why I remember that, but I do.
All right. And how many guns in the battery?
I'm going to say there's, it's been a long time. I'm going to say maybe 7 or 8.
Okay. All right. And then would the guns get sent out to different places, or?
The guns stayed there, and eventually we would move from Firebase to Firebase, but they stayed in one location for quite a while.
All right. And while you're there and you're at Jack, what's going on?
Actually, for a long time, we just fired missions, and it was pretty calm. And then they decided to move our battery to Ripcord, and excuse my expression, but all hell broke out.
All right. So when do they move your battery out to Ripcord?
I don't remember.
Okay. Because they establish the base, or they begin to do it in the middle of April. That's when they actually take over the hilltop and they start digging out the holes and
Yeah.
positions and things like that. But then, but Burkhardt is still a captain of A2506 when you joined, so
Right.
that's going to be. And had you moved out? You had moved out to Ripcord by the time you switched
Yes.
out. Okay.
I left to join Alpha Company when I was on Ripcord.
All right. So that's probably around May or so.
Probably.
In terms of chronology. Okay. But basically, so you do it. So describe the move out to Ripcord. What happens?
Well, at first, nothing. We was moving the guns in, taking little small arms fire, but nothing big.
How do they move the guns?
Helicopter.
Okay. And now, were these guns, were these the same kind that you had trained on?
Yes.
Okay, split trail
105
105s.
Howitzer.
All right. And does the gun go all out in one piece, or do you take it apart, or how does that work?
You just lock the trails together and pick it up and go.
All right. And were you on the base when they landed the guns, or do you join after the guns are moved?
We go with our guns, and well, they brought us out,
Mm-hmm.
and then when our guns come in, we just set them. Pathfinder would set them in position, and we would set them up.
All right. And now, did you have work to do to kind of get the position ready or reinforce it or anything else like that?
No, when we got there, the 155s were already there.
Okay.
So basically, all we done was circle the 155s.
But the firing positions were already prepared and sandbagged and...
a lot of them we had to do, but there were some there when we got there.
Okay. And then how busy were you up on the hilltop?
Busy.
Okay.
Busy until we got set up.
And how many rounds do you think you'd fire in a day? Or your gun would fire?
I really don't remember. I would be afraid to guess.
Okay. What was your assignment within the gun crew?
Well, I had different assignments.
Okay.
When I was loader, I don't know if that's a military name for it now or not, but I would shove the projectile up into the barrel, and then they would pull the lanyard rope. But that's when I got hit in the leg. I mean,
Okay. Now, you got hit in the leg how? Or by what?
we was in a formation, and like everything, you want to get those rounds pumped in that barrel as fast as you can. And I wasn't very alert, and I was just thinking about getting the rounds out there. Then he pulled the rope, and recoil come back and got me in the leg.
Okay. And how badly hurt were you at that point?
Well, they thought my leg was broken 2 places,
Mhm.
and I couldn't walk on it for like 4 days or so. But I thought I was coming home.
Did they send you to the rear at that point?
Yes.
Okay.
They took me out. They medevaced me out.
Mm-hmm. All right. And then how long did they back to Camp Evans or somewhere else?
Yeah.
Okay. But then did they x-ray it or just feel it or?
I think so. They had to cut the pants off of me because
Mhm.
my leg was swollen so bad. But
Yeah.
they couldn't find a break, but it was just absolutely just black and blue from that.
And how long did you stay on Evans?
I know they put a lot of ice packs on me. I think maybe a week.
Okay. And were the guys surprised to see you come back?
Yeah, everybody thought I was going home.
Okay.
I thought I was going home.
Kind of a disappointment to find out otherwise.
Yeah, it was.
All right. Now, you go back out there. Now, was one of the jobs, did you have to move ammunition around? Or?
Yeah, we had to hump our rounds and put them in the ammo section.
Okay. Now, were the rounds already prepared? I mean, did you have all a single unit with the charge and the explosive and so forth, all
Yes.
one thing together?
Yeah, but it wasn't detonated, and we didn't have the timer set or
Okay.
any of that.
All right.
It was a dummy round until you set it.
Mhm.
Then it become.
Okay. Now, did you have different kinds of rounds, or were they all high explosive?
All we had M16s, and we had 105s. We had 2 rounds.
Right. Okay. But did you have like illumination rounds you could fire?
Yes.
Okay.
Beehive.
Okay. So you did have different kinds.
Yeah. White phosphorus.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right. And then, so basically, you're really kind of up there just sort of a few weeks or a month or something like that before you get assigned to be a forward observer RTO.
Yeah.
Okay.
About that. I can't remember the dates.
All right. Now, at the time that you got that assignment, and now you're going to go join a line company, was were things still pretty safe up on top of the hill?
Yeah, they were. We was taking incoming once in a while, but nothing like, the
What
last.
happened later?
Yeah.
Okay. Now, when they told you you were going to go be the RTO out in the field, how did you feel about that?
Well, Captain Rich wanted volunteers, and
Mhm.
I thought about volunteering, and then I did, and then he come and said, "Well, you're going out." And I said, "Okay." And it really didn't bother me because
Okay.
I wanted to see kind of like what it was out in the infantry. And,
Okay.
well, that was a mistake.
All right. Now you agree, you've signed up. How do you get out to the unit?
Helicopter.
Okay. And were they in the field at that time?
Yes.
Okay. And then, so you join them now. So is there a fellow who is a forward observer?
Lieutenant Brennan was my forward. Lieutenant Tom Brennan was my forward observer.
All right.
And I was his RTO man.
Okay. Now you join him. So what does the job now consist of? What are you going to be doing?
Well, I would pack a radio for him and me,
Mm-hmm.
and a lot of times he would figure out coordinates and have me to call them in. And
Okay. Now would he stay with the company CP most of the time?
yes.
Okay. What impression did you have of Captain Burkhardt?
Oh, I thought he was great.
Okay, so he's a good guy.
Oh yeah, yeah.
All right. So you join the unit now. So you've got to hump around in the hills and the jungle with these guys now, right?
Right.
Okay. Now, how easy or hard was that?
At first it was kind of hard, and of course I was nervous.
Mm-hmm.
But then after maybe a week or two, you adjust. But in Vietnam you had to adjust fast.
Mm-hmm.
You couldn't stand around in the days and wondering what if. You do it,
Mm-hmm.
and then it becomes easier all the time.
Okay. And you're in a situation where you've got to stay with the observer and your CP. So you're not out there walking point or
No,
walking into
no.
the ambushes. Someone else
No.
gets to do that.
Oh, we walked into ambushes, but yeah, no, we didn't walk point.
Okay. What do you remember? Kind of the first time the unit sort of got into action, or that you had to do that job?
Well, there were several times we had action, but July 22nd was the big one for me.
Okay. Now, prior to that, there was back when Burkhardt was the captain. There was, I think it was on Hill 1000 or one of the hills right around there. You were trying to attack a position, and I think that was like where Chuck Norris's brother got killed or something like that. Now, when a firefight like that is going on, kind of where are you and what are you doing?
We're trying to get gunships up and get them out there, and artillery, whatever they wanted. I mean, if the CO would tell us to call in, we call in.
Okay. And how did you have, before the 22nd, did you have any close calls yourself?
Well, I don't remember.
Okay.
I mean, I really, I knew we had a few firefights, but
Okay.
I guess that's close.
All right. Can you describe a little bit just sort of life in the jungle out in the hills with these guys? What are you doing day to day, or how does?
Well, you're walking and you're miserable. It is one miserable time, especially during the monsoon rains.
Okay.
It's just, I didn't like anything about it.
All right. Well, in the time before Ripcord, that's sort of after the monsoons. It's a little bit drier season and so forth, but hot. And I guess what would you do at night when you're out in the field?
Basically just talk, but you talk low.
Mm-hmm.
But you didn't really get up and move around or anything like that. You pretty much stayed low
Yeah.
key.
But I guess the men in the company form the perimeter, and you're with
Right.
the CP or around
Yeah.
there someplace. Okay. Now, at a certain point in this, the Burkhardt gets sent out and he gets replaced.
Right.
Who came in to replace him?
Captain Hawkins.
All right. What impression did you have of Hawkins?
Oh, I liked Hawkins. Good officer.
Was he a different character from Burkhardt?
Yes.
How would you describe his way of doing things?
Well, both of them was very serious about their jobs,
Mm-hmm.
but I think Chuck I could joke around with a lot more.
Mm-hmm.
But I liked them both. I mean,
Okay.
they both were outstanding officers, and
Mhm.
it just seemed like me and Chuck, and we built a quick friendship, just
Right.
like my lieutenants.
Mm-hmm. Okay, so you had pretty good officers
Oh,
as far as you were
yeah.
concerned. All right. Now,
There was one I didn't like, but what do you do? Yeah.
okay. And what would somebody do that would, what would make him different? You don't need to, throw names, but why
Well,
was
we
that
had
from?
one second lieutenant who come into our company who thought he was going to be John Wayne, you
Oh.
know. And me and him there, we got along.
Mm-hmm.
But for most of the officers, you couldn't ask for better guys. I had one bad officer in the whole time I was in the Army, so.
Okay, so pretty good percentage of
It was.
good guys.
Yeah.
All right.
And this guy was wanting medals, and,
Mm-hmm.
you know.
All right. Now, so you're doing this. Now, did you have any sense of, before the 22nd of July, I mean, did you have any feel, because you're an RTO, so you've got some idea of what's going on
Right.
around. Did you have a sense that things were getting worse or getting uglier? Or what indications do you have of that before?
Well, before the 22nd, I'm pretty sure I thought things were getting worse because it seemed like we was getting more contact.
Mm-hmm.
And then it seemed like Ripcord was getting a little bit more incoming.
Okay.
And then,
And of course, a few days before the 22nd, there had been a helicopter crash.
right,
All right, and your battery's positions were blown up.
right.
Okay. Now, did you learn about that over the radio, or did you hear it, or?
Over the radio, and we could hear it.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, you know, we was just off the hill. And
Now, did your battery take any casualties during that?
you know, I don't remember.
Mm-hmm.
I really don't remember. I'm sure they did.
Because I don't think anyone got killed, at least not in the battery. Like, they got out before the ammo blew up.
Yeah.
Okay, but basically, you're not sort of.
Well, I thought you was talking about the whole 22nd.
No,
all of it.
no, I know, I know. I meant specifically but no, from your old the
Okay.
unit that you were detached from.
Yeah, I really don't know.
Okay, but did you try to find out if your friends were okay, or your own gun crew, or you're too busy with what you're doing?
One of the chief of the gun, I still stay in contact with
Okay.
him.
Mhm.
I can find out from him, but I don't think.
All right, yeah, because we're trying to put together here what you did and what you knew at the time, but mostly
Yeah.
you're focused on your job out there in the field.
Yes,
And it's getting pretty intense by then.
it is.
Now, there was a point when your company, you find the communications wire, and then were you aware of what was going on with that? Or?
Well, I didn't at first, and then, then we found out. But it was pretty obvious what was going on, and so you just led up to the 22nd.
Okay, so talk about what happened then on the 22nd.
22nd, we was getting ready to leave our site and do some humping out in the jungle, and there was small arms fire, and then there was satchel charges, and I always stayed with my lieutenant. My lieutenant was Steve Olson. He was brand new in the company, and we got down on the side of the hill, and they was hitting us pretty hard, so we all got down, me and him and Sergeant Wagner, and Lieutenant Olson got up, I guess, to direct fire, whatever. I pulled him back down. I said, "Stay down, Steve." He pulled away from me, got back up, and took a direct hit.
Mm-hmm.
So, and I thought the guy on the left of me, Bill Wagner, was already gone.
Mm-hmm.
So I started pulling back. I was going to see if I could locate anybody else. I was going to start calling in something, I don't know, a WAP or something. And I heard Bill screaming for help. And we were the type of guys that would never leave anybody behind. So I turned around and went back and got him to get him.
Mm-hmm.
And I could hear the Vietnamese talking as they was coming down the hillside. So I just laid over him. Because I knew if we both tried to go, we would have got killed. So I laid over him, and I could see some of the gooks, Vietnamese, shoot some of our Americans. They was already shot, but they finished them off. And then they come down to me and Bill, and this is where I lost track of everything.
Mm-hmm.
I remember them walking down the hill. I remember they was wearing sandals.
Mm-hmm.
Why I remember that, I don't know. But shortly after that, everything blacked out on me. And then I find out later that I was kicked in the head. I didn't realize that.
Mm-hmm.
And I guess I just blacked out.
But they decided not to finish you off.
Well, when my lieutenant got hit, a lot of his,
Yeah. Okay.
Bill Wagner's
So you were
blood.
covered with blood and.
All kinds of stuff.
Mm-hmm.
And I think they thought I was already.
But they didn't try to take your radio or your weapon
No,
or anything
no,
like that?
nope.
They were,
No.
I guess they were in the middle of a firefight still at that point.
Right.
Okay. So now, do you have a sense of, what do you remember next now? You wake up at some point?
No, I don't even remember waking up. It's
Mhm.
just like I was in a fog.
Mhm.
And then I come to myself, and I thought, well, I knew what had happened previously. I thought, we got to get out of here. So I shook Bill, and he never responded.
Mhm.
And then finally, when I started to pull back, he moved, and I said, Bill, I'm going to go get help. I'll be right back. He said, no, don't leave me.
Mhm.
I said, I've got to. We got to get out of here. So I pulled back and got behind a tree, and I hollered, Curry. That was our call sign. And somebody hollered Curry back. I'm not sure. I think it was Captain Hawkins.
Mhm.
But anyway, he hollered back, and then I could hear his voice, knew basically the location. Right. And I met up with him and another guy, and we moved back and got Wagner.
Mhm.
So.
All right. Now what happens after that?
Well, Wagner was shot up pretty bad.
Mhm.
After that, I got with Captain Hawkins. We called in, gunships,
Mhm.
artillery, and there was an Arvin laying beside me, which he was shot pretty bad too, and Captain Hawkins was hit in the throat. And I was kind of wanting to take care of both of them, but
Mhm.
it was impossible. So.
But was Hawkins still out there giving orders and telling people what to do?
Well, actually, there wasn't too many around me in Hawkins.
Mhm.
They were scattered,
Okay.
And from what I remember.
Right.
Like I said, a lot of it I don't remember, but they told me about it later.
Okay. Now, were there still people shooting at you at that point?
When I was with Hawkins,
Yeah.
no.
Okay. And then how long before stuff quiets down?
Well, it seemed like 100 years. I don't know. Probably. I don't know. We was pinned down for quite a while.
Okay. Now, did the enemy back off by nightfall?
Yes.
Okay. And
They were still there, but they weren't shooting.
okay. And then do you think the airstrikes had been effective, or because somebody talks about it?
Yes, they did. The airstrikes were effective, and so was it the Cobras and everybody.
Okay. So you're calling in everything and anybody, and
Yep, we did.
they're providing support fire. Okay. Now, were they able to get you out before nightfall?
No,
Okay.
next day.
All right. And did you know if they were trying to get you out?
No, I mean, I didn't, or if
Okay.
I did, I don't remember.
All right.
All I know is next day, Delta Company, which took a big chance on getting this. I'm surprised a lot of Delta Company didn't get wiped
Yeah.
out. But Delta Company come in and
They come
God
find
gave
you.
his angels.
Yeah. Great. Now, what was that night like? What did you do overnight?
Basically, thought about my family, thought about my childhood, because I just knew that we weren't going to get off that hill.
Now, were you getting hit at all, or was it the enemy quiet?
After dark, no, we never took any fire that I remember.
Okay. Now, were they providing elimination rounds for you, or was there light?
No, I don't remember that.
Okay.
I don't remember that. As a matter of fact, I don't think that would have been a good idea, because there was just a few of us, and there was a lot of them.
Okay. Now, was Captain Hawkins moving around or trying to find the other guys, or or were you kind of on your own for a while?
I was on my own for a while, me and Bill.
Mm-hmm.
I really can't tell you what Captain Hawkins was doing before I got with him.
Okay.
I'm sure he was.
But then once you had gotten with him, did he stay with you, or did he?
Me and him stayed together until Delta Company come in.
Okay. All right. Yeah. So the night is just something you survived. You kind of got through it.
Yeah.
Okay. The Delta Company comes in, and then once they join you, do you have to go to an LZ someplace, or what happens?
No, they come right in, right where we was at, and picked us up.
Okay.
It was amazing pickup.
Mm-hmm.
them guys yelled at, I love all Delta Company. They were, well, they was our angels, you know.
Okay. Now, were you in better shape than most of the company? Or were you feeling the effects of being kicked in the head, or?
Never felt any of that. It didn't,
Okay.
you know.
Okay, and when the choppers come in, I mean, where in the sequence do you go? Are you in one of the later choppers to go out? Or?
Yes.
Okay.
Yep.
And when your chopper came in, were you taking fire, or?
Yes. I think me and, if I'm not mistaken, I think this is right. Me and Captain Hawkins were on the last ship to go out.
Okay.
Because we had the radios, and that's the way I remember
Right.
it.
Well, Hawkins probably, from what people say about him, he probably would have been on the last one
Yeah,
out.
I think me and him was on the last chopper.
Okay. And did the chopper have any problems getting out?
No.
Okay, so you smooth up and out and over.
Yeah.
Okay. Now, how long does it take to get back to Camp Evans from there?
I don't remember.
What, was it a short trip?
Probably,
Okay,
but I don't.
Not what you remember. All right.
Yeah.
Okay. Now, after you get back to Evans, what happens?
Well, we went back to Firebase Ripcord from Ripcord, and they rushed us into a hooch, and we was told not to talk to the other soldiers. So they rushed us in there, and they talked to us later on back, and then we went to Camp Evans. But I don't know why they didn't let us congregate amongst the other soldiers on Rockasan, but they told us to, you know.
Well, okay, you're still with Alpha Company, right?
Right.
Okay. Well, you've been hit really bad.
Yeah.
So they
And I think they might have, I don't know what the reason was for it, but maybe because they didn't want us to tell them what we went through.
But then you do rejoin him back at Evans. And then, now, for the rest of your tour then in Vietnam, do you kind of stay with the same job?
Yep.
Okay, so you're still there. So you're not going back to the battery, and whereas the battery doesn't have guns right now.
Right. No, I didn't. I never went back to
Okay.
artillery.
All right.
I stayed with the infantry until I left country.
Okay. And then when did you leave Vietnam?
Around the 1st of December, I think.
Okay. Now, so you've got another, several months left, and what were those last months like in the field?
To tell you the truth, I got to thinking about some of the guys. Most of my time left after the 22nd was bitter. A lot of hate. Yeah. I lost a lot of good friends over there. It's all,
Okay, so that's just kind of. Now, was there much real activity, or were you just patrolling and not having much happen?
We had our share of, hits. It's nothing like it was
Right.
the other ones. But, if you walked the jungle in Vietnam, you was going to walk into an ambush, or you was going to take sniper fire. That was, automatic.
Okay. Now, were you mostly still operating kind of in the hills and the jungle for the
Yes.
rest of the time? Okay. How much time did you wind up spending in the rear, do you think?
Back there.
At Evans or whatever, yeah.
For when?
Just over the course of the year, how much time do you think you spent in the rear?
Besides me getting injured, not very long.
All right.
Maybe, this is a good estimate, 5 days maybe.
Okay, so you're really not back there much necessarily.
Yeah, I
at
spent
all.
most of my time out away from Evans.
All right. Did you ever take R&R?
I was going to take R&R, and I was going to go to Australia, and I was supposed to go back out on the resupply chopper when they brought us in, but before they could get there, they were shot down. And then the second time, I was socked in from the fog. And I thought, something's telling me not to go on R&R. So when it did clear away, and he said, you want to go on R&R now? I said, no. No, because I think something was telling me not to go.
All right. Now, There are a lot of kind of popular stereotyped impressions about Vietnam and what goes on there, what soldiers do, and so forth. And those don't always necessarily correspond to reality. So I'll ask you a couple of questions here, and you just give me your own impression
Okay.
or whatever. One of them has to do with the idea that lots of people were out there using drugs and so forth. How much of that did you ever see?
And now, my artillery unit, my infantry unit, I never seen it.
Okay. And certainly not in the field, and you're in the field all the
never,
time.
no.
Okay. Okay. And and also, and this particularly normally applies to rear areas, but they also talk about racial tensions and that kind of thing.
Never
Were
seen
you
that
aware
either.
of that? Yeah. Did you have black guys in the artillery unit, or
Yes.
okay, and in the line company, the Alpha company?
I guess we had a few.
Okay. But basically, they were just soldiers.
Yes.
Yeah. Okay. You're not dealing with that. All right.
Yeah.
How much contact did you have with home while you were in Vietnam?
I rode home almost every day.
Okay. And were you getting mail back?
Yes.
Okay. And who was writing to you?
My mother,
Okay.
my aunts,
And
my cousins, my dad, my brothers.
okay. And how often would you get the mail?
I can't remember, but it seemed like, I don't know, every 3 or 4 days maybe.
Now, did you have them send you stuff besides mail?
Oh yeah, I got a lot of care packages.
Okay. And what would they put in the care packages for you?
Well, a lady who is, she's passed on now, but she, I told him I wish I could have some fresh fruit, just joking about it. And my mom had told her, and she sent me, it was probably a half a case of baby food, Gerber's baby food. And, well, that stuff was good over there.
That's an improvement over sea rations.
Oh, it was, and it was all like different fruits.
Mm-hmm.
It was great.
Yeah. Because that's. Yeah, and that would stay good.
Oh, yeah,
Even
it's-
fresh fruit, I had this idea of her loading up a fruit basket.
Yeah,
and
yeah,
sending
it
to
would
you.
have never worked.
Oh, all right, you kind of got that. Did you use things to flavor the water, I mean, or that kind of thing? Did you get Kool-Aid or that kind of thing, or did you not ask for that?
No, I can't remember ever getting
Okay.
that. I got, my favorite candy when I was young was those Chuckles,
Mm-hmm.
and we had them in Vietnam, so actually that's all I wanted,
Yep. All right.
And they would send me a carton of cigarettes and stuff like that.
All right. Now, okay, so now you get now to the, and did you stay the full year in Vietnam, or did you get out a little early?
I got out. I got a Christmas drop. It's called the Santa Claus drop from President Nixon. I love that guy.
All right. So when do you actually leave Vietnam then?
Jim, I don't remember.
Okay, but before Christmas.
Yeah, it was before Christmas.
Okay. And then where do you land in the States?
Fort Lewis, Washington.
Okay. And once you got there, what kind of reception do you get?
We flew in the middle of the night,
Mhm.
and we had to walk in the building through the German Shepherd dogs, and they sniffed everybody. Some of the guys got caught,
Mm-hmm.
but then they took us to another room and said, "There, you can have a steak dinner on the president,
Mhm.
and or you can go ahead and get issued your dress screens and go home."
Mm-hmm.
I don't know if anybody stayed for that steak dinner.
Yep. Okay. So did you fly home in uniform then?
Had to.
Okay.
Back then you had to.
All right, because a lot of guys talk about changing into civilian clothing in the airport or something like
Really?
that. Yeah. Well, did you encounter any protesters on the way home?
In Dallas, Texas, there was 3 hippies, 2 guys and a gal.
Mm-hmm.
This is about 2 or 3 o'clock in the morning. They come walking through there. I was sitting there reading, and they walked up and just stared at me. And finally, she called me a baby killer. I didn't say anything, and those guys never opened their mouth.
Mm-hmm.
She called me a baby killer again, never said anything. And he just walked off.
Mm-hmm.
No violence, no nothing, just,
Right. Yeah. Well, I guess they were the night shift for the protesters or
I
something.
guess, yeah.
All right.
They were scroungy and you could smell them on you. It was awful.
And when you got home, what kind of reception do you get there?
Oh, great. Parties, a lot of parties.
Okay. Now, you still have time left on your enlistment.
Right.
So what do you do for the last part of your service?
I go to Fort Hood, Texas, and they took I hope this doesn't sound like I'm bragging, I'm not, but they took the 6th highest decorated guys in our artillery unit at Fort Hood and put us on honor guard.
Okay.
So we went wherever we were sent to pick up a lot of the Vietnam veterans who was killed over there, and we take them to the funeral home, stayed with them until, you know, it was put in the ground.
Now, was that a good thing for you to be doing on your return?
You know, I understood death. I understood what happened. I knew what happens in war. I was sorry because someone was my age. But the hardest part of me was the parents and their brothers and sisters, grandparents.
Yeah.
And almost all the mothers thought we was with their son when he was killed. And, you know, we weren't. But when we just tell them we weren't with him and I don't know what happened. Even if we knew what happened, we weren't allowed to tell them.
Right.
So.
Yeah. Okay. Now, I don't. Does that duty kind of wear on you after a while?
Yeah. One that sticks in my mind, and I think about this poor woman. I'm sure she's deceased now, but we was at a funeral. It was a Catholic funeral. I'll never forget it. And we was getting ready to present her the flag. She wouldn't accept it. Her son was supposedly got in trouble over there, and he was killed. His name was Lewis. His last name was Lewis. And his mom wouldn't accept the flag. So, and you can't take the flag back with you. So our sergeant gave it to the priest, and she was bitter, really bitter, and I can understand, but I really can. But it was kind of put everybody on the spot. I'd never seen anybody deny a flag before, but she did.
Okay. Now, what was sort of daily life like on Fort Hood in those last months?
Spit shine. That's what you did. You spit shine. I wasn't attached to any, like the motor pool or nothing. All I done was pretty much kept everything.
And you didn't get any bad duty or anything because
no,
you were honored.
No, not at all.
Okay.
We did take turns during the. We took turns practicing on the ceremonies. We would take turns riding in the casket. They would take and walk us down. We lay in the casket. And I'm the only. I'm one. Well, it was 3 of us guys. The rest of them said there's no way. But we would get in the casket. They would close the lid, and they would walk us down the steps, trying to keep it level, then walk us back up again. I've got pictures of me, and my mom was so upset over that because I had just got back from Vietnam. But that's part of the practice.
Yeah, because you have to have the weight in there.
You got to have the weight, and you got to keep it level.
You got to tell them if they're giving you a good ride or not, I guess.
Yeah.
All right. Yeah, I don't know. Did you find that weird the first time you did it, or?
Yeah, I did, and I thought, boy, you know, this is kind of comfortable.
But you were aware it wasn't really you, so
yeah,
you're not there for regular purpose.
Everybody kept saying, "You're crazy, man. There's no way."
Okay. Now, when you get to the end of the hitch, had they made an effort to get you to reenlist?
Oh yeah.
Okay. But what do they offer you?
They offered me another tour of duty in Vietnam with my MOS because I knew the alphabet, the book, and they said we'll give you another stripe. And they offered me some money, and I said, I got to go back to Vietnam, which I wasn't going to re-enlist anyway.
Right. Yeah.
Oh yeah, you got to do one more tour of duty in Vietnam. I said, no way. He said, boy, you're missing a good opportunity. This is a good retirement. I said, you can have it.
All right. So you get discharged. You go home. What do you do?
I go back to the place I was working before I left for the Army. And had a problem there, though. They said they don't ever remember me working there. They did other Vietnam veterans the same way. And so, and I got a hold of one of the bosses that I worked for, which was a childhood friend of mine. He said, he went up to the main office and said, he most certainly did work there. He rode to work with me. And he said, we don't have any record of it. And I had a pretty good paying job, and they said, well, but we'll take him and we'll put him on labor. And I said, well, you know, you're supposed to give me my job back. They said, well, we don't have any record of you ever working on a job. So the president of my union, he went up and told him, he said, I'll tell you what, you got 24 hours to put him back on his job, or we're going to call the Veterans Administration.
Mm-hmm.
Well, they said, you got to do what you got to do, and he said, I will. So he made a call to the VA, and the VA called the place I worked. Next day I was back on my job.
All right.
So.
Did you wind up staying with that then for?
Yes, I retired from that job.
All right.
It shut down, but I retired when it shut down.
All right. Now, to look back on the time that you spent in the service, how do you think that affected you? Positive, negative?
Well, it's definitely positive because I needed it, but I had some good times, but it wasn't a good time, you know. Of course, maybe if I hadn't been in Vietnam, it might have been a lot of fun. I might have re-enlisted.
Mm-hmm.
But not only me, but a lot of us went through some bad times, you know.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, how hard was it to adjust to being a civilian again?
You know, when I come home, I had quite a temper. I was arrested a lot for disorderly conduct.
Mm-hmm.
Nothing, you know, nothing. It just seemed like that I would go off over nothing and get in a fist fight.
And did you eventually get that under control?
Yeah, I did. I had to go to the psychiatrist, and I'm still seeing a psychiatrist, as a matter of fact. And I hope if any Vietnam veteran sees this that's having problems, you know, the VA is excellent in giving you help if you've got problems like that. And I'll be under medication for the rest of my life, but it's okay, it's working.
Mm-hmm.
And my wife, my family all said we can see a big difference in you.
Mm-hmm.
So
yeah,
I just wish I would have done it when I first got home.
Because they weren't really even offering much help when you first got home, were they? No.
No, I went over and sat one day. They sent me an appointment. I went over there and sat one day, all day long.
Mm-hmm.
They never did call me. But that was back in probably 74,
Yeah.
73. It was just a bad time.
Yeah.
You know.
Now, and so when did you start getting some help from them?
It was 30 years after Vietnam, 32 years after Vietnam that I got help. I had disability coming from Vietnam. I never collected it for 32 years. And my dad was upset with me. He said, why don't you go get your disability? I said, no, I was one of the guys that hated the government.
Yeah, yeah.
And people say, well, it's a shame you feel that way about your government. No, it's a shame what the government done to us.
Mm-hmm.
Ripcord was a congressional cover-up.
Yeah, well, you didn't get blistered about that for a long time. After you got back from Vietnam, did you talk much to people about what happened to you over there?
Never.
Okay.
Never. I mean, it was something really, I don't think anybody wanted to hear it anyway.
Right.
You know, I know I had trouble getting a loan for a car when I got back. Every time I filled out an application at the bank for a loan, it would get thrown in the trash can. So.
And then because you were a veteran, or?
Well, their excuse was that you've been out of the United States for a year and we just can't take a chance on you. I said I was born and raised in Jersey County.
Mm-hmm.
You people know my parents. You know all my uncles. My uncle my uncles had businesses with this same bank.
Okay. Now, at what point did you find the Ripcord Association?
I guess when the book came out.
Okay.
Dale Lane called my wife and said that, well, maybe it was me.
Mm-hmm.
Called my wife and said there's a Ripcord book out. He looked me up and said there's a Ripcord book out and Floyd's in it.
Mm-hmm.
And so I guess they had looked for me previously.
Yeah.
Well, Keith Nolan told me he thought that I was already gone, dead. And he said, but they was looking in Indiana instead of Illinois.
Oops. All right. Okay. And so that's like back in the 90s when the book comes out.
Yeah.
Yeah. All right. Yeah. I mean, it's well, you know, you got a good story here, and I appreciate your taking the time to tell it to me today.
You're welcome.